Well, hello and welcome everyone to the 2023 Coaches Training Session for the Shakopee mountain bike team. My name is John Oman. I'm the head coach of the team, and I want to get you up to speed on a few things tonight to get you ready for coaching. As you can see, last year we had a pretty large team of 85 riders, 45 coaches, and it takes all of that help by the coaches to run a team of this size. So we appreciate your time and effort that you put into this. All right, so our head coaches. So there's me in the middle, John Oman. Coach Kyle Sabota is on the right, and Tim Vosberg on the left. We are your three head coaches of the team. Okay, so why are we getting together? Again, we want to get you up to speed on our season and make this low stress and fun for you, not just for the kids. All right, our agenda, we have several topics we're going to run through. There's quite a bit of stuff to cover, so I'm going to go pretty quickly to keep this video as short as possible. Feel free to email me with questions later when we're all done. So there's your topics that we're going to hit tonight. Our philosophy here in Shakopee, being safe and having fun is number one. Okay, that's got to be our top priority. Number two, we're hoping that kids will want to make this a lifelong sport after they graduate from high school. Okay, and we want to support their goals. Number three, whatever that is, whether that's racing goals of being fast or just riding for fun. And we also really like it, number four, when families start riding together. That's the frosting on the cake for me. All right, our expectations of you as coaches. Here we go. We expect that you guys will open up our practice plans each and every practice day. We use Google Sheets, and you can download that app for free and put it on your phone so you can easily have the plans open at practice. We ask that you read through those plans each practice day, and also note your availability over in the TeamSnap app so we know which coaches are coming and how much coverage we have. Coach Kyle and I look at that pretty heavily throughout the practice day to know if we can actually hold practice or not. Okay, we have to have at least an 8-to-2 rider to coach ratio in order for us to send a group out to practice. We ask that you guys keep us informed as to different situations that come up, whether that's safety or health. Give us feedback. Okay. One of the more common things we get feedback on, though, is whether a rider is too fast for the group that they're in or if they are too slow. Those also become safety issues in the long run. So please keep us very informed on those so we can keep making adjustments to groups and plans. And of course, give us feedback on our plans. If something worked, let us know. If something did not work, let us know that as well. Okay, we expect you guys to greet your riders at the start and at the end of practice. I personally love to fist bump kids, come up with greetings with them. Keep it simple, it doesn't have to be complicated. A simple hi or hello is just fine, and a goodbye at the end of practice. I love it when coaches and groups get inside jokes going from funny things that have happened in their group that only their group would know. That's all fun. Inside jokes, having fun nicknames for each other as long as it's okay with the rider. Those can be fun as long as they're positive. Our first practice, that's probably the next thing you're wondering about. What's that going to look like? Our first practice is on July 11th this year. It's going to be at Memorial Park in Shakopee, over at the East Shelter is where we usually meet. We'll have our nonprofit board members set up with a table and greeting parents and riders as they come in. I'll get them set up with a helmet name tag and you as well. And they'll get kids directed to their ride groups. So you as coaches will be situated at different markers or orange cones indicating which ride group you're at, and we'll send the kids to you. At those different cones where you're set up, we ask that if you happen to own any bike tools or a bike work stand, please bring those with because we're going to have you check their bikes to make sure they're in good working order and ready to go for the season. If you get the opportunity to greet your parents too, that would be even better. Parents generally like to feel like they're plugged in as well as the kids are and feel like they know people where they're dropping their kids off. So do the bike safety checks I just mentioned during that first practice. Also set up expectations of your group. You can set up some rules. I'll have a suggestion for that later in the presentation. Talk about what kind of a group do you want to be? Do you want to be a recreational group? Do you have kids that want to be competitive in racing, or some of both? Maybe talk about those things so that everybody knows where they're going that year. And if you have time at the end, the least important part of the practice would be to go ride that night. If you can get there, great. Go ride to Excel, over to the river bottoms. But if you don't have time, that's fine as well. Okay, these other things are the most important for the first night. Again, bring your work stand and tools if you own them. As far as practice plans go, not just for the first night, but all upcoming practices, we have a practice document that Coach Kyle and I will be updating. We ask that you read it after 3 p.m. on a practice day. If you read it before 3 p.m., please come back and check it again in case we've made updates. Quite often we're reading, the weather report, or maybe some information about a trail has come up that day or whatever. Things happen, and we ask that you check the plans before you go to practice after 3 p.m. Now the first practice, you'll see July 11th down here, you'll see that, all right, this looked pretty detailed. There's a lot of information here. This is by far the most detailed plan you'll get of the season. This is basically outlining what I just mentioned a moment ago about getting your kids set up to go on the first night. If you scroll down even further, you'll find more information. Here's input we've taken in the past. Here's some things I'm going to cover later in the video, and so on. Okay, down the line. The second practice, we've already got that written in here. July 13th, you can see which individual groups will be doing: blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. So be sure to read your group's practice plan. And we try to keep them this short right here, so this isn't a burden for you to read each and every day. It's just that first day, there's just a lot more to know. But that's not normal right there. All right, back to our slideshow. All right, so again, read the practice document before you come. Please don't ask us what we're doing when you get to practice. If you need clarifying questions asked, that's fine. You can come to us with those questions. But as far as knowing what to do, we're asking you to know that before you come to practice. There will be times during the season where you just have a few minutes to kill, or maybe you get back, or you get your ride is done early and you have time to fill. Some common games that we play: foot down, also known as Fight Club. That's a common game where we all circle up, kids ride in the center, and try to get each other to step off their bike, but they can't touch each other while doing so. Slow race is a pretty easy one to run as well, and it works on skills that they need. And bike limbo has been popular in the past as well. Our rider mentorship program started last year, and we have a lot to improve on for this year for mentorship, and we have some ideas that we're going to use. Again, we're going to have kids pair up 2 to 3 times during the season, but instead of having them find specific group leaders like we did last year, we're going to have, for example, like maybe red group will just all pair up with the blue group, or orange with green, something like that. We'll make it a whole lot easier for groups to come together and meet, and a lot less time will get wasted just getting set up this year. So yes, we'll continue on with that, having the older kids pair up with the younger kids, where they can talk about skills and race goals, those types of things, and anything else that they want to talk about. So we're hoping to foster these younger kids to want to stick around in our program and become those leaders in years to come. We have an adventure ride plan for this year, and I see my slide here is not updated. We are not riding the Red Wing like we did last year. We're actually going to return to Stillwater like we did 2 seasons ago, where we start at the river bottoms and ride all the way up through St. Paul, pick up the Gateway Trail, and out to Stillwater, cross over in Wisconsin, where we'll all have a picnic, and the parents will pick up their kids that day. Like we did last year with the Red Wing ride, we'll have groups start at different locations. Red and orange, of course, will have the longest ride. Yellow, green, and blue will start further up the line, have a shorter ride, but we'll all end at the same location as we did 2 years ago, just across the border in Wisconsin from Stillwater. So that'll be in mid-August, I believe, when we're doing that. All right, this next slide, this is meant just for coaches that are coaching kids that want to race and want to do their very best at racing. And if every kid doesn't want to race, that is just fine. So this is just aimed at racers. All right, when we plan our practices with racing in mind, here's what's going on in the back of our minds as we're setting things up. Okay, if you look at this graph here, you'll see volume. Volume, you can equate that to be the amount of time sitting on your bike and riding it. So think of this as time right here. So you can see in July we'll be riding our bikes for the longest amount of time according to this. Loading, that would be like intensity, so how hard you're riding. So in July we generally don't ride very hard, but we ride for a long time. So this produces endurance. Later on you'll see our time goes down, but our intensity goes up. So in other words, we're starting to add in hills and sprints right in this time of the season. By our race season, when our races are happening, you'll see that we don't ride super long rides. We do short, hard, intense efforts. And eventually that leads to our race readiness being very high. So basically this is kind of a quick way to get in shape for racing right here. Ride a lot, but ride low intensity early on. Later on you increase intensity, but don't ride as long, and then you mix it up towards the end of the season. So that's generally the idea behind race training. All right, another topic that I would say we can do better at, and this has always been in the back of my mind but tends to get forgotten, is stretching. All right, I could definitely do better at this personally. If you could get your kids to stretch at least once per practice, that would be ideal. At least once a week would be the next best thing. For example, hamstrings, have them throw their leg up over their frame or their wheel. This is one I do a lot when I get home from work. Stretch your hammies. Your outer glutes are known to be very tight in cyclists, so do the figure 4 stretch like this. Have them sit down in that figure 4 shape so it gets the outer edge of your glutes, because glutes do not get worked very much while biking, so they get tight. And your quads, stretch like this guy right here. Your quads and your hip flexor, they can get tight from leaning forward on your bike for hours at a time. So those 3 basic stretches, if you did that for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes per practice, that would be awesome. Either in the middle or the end of practice would be just fine. All right, this next slide is all about safety. I personally bike to Shakopee and back on my commute, and this is a ride that we'll be doing a lot as a team through the same area that I commute. This is the Light Rail Trail, or LRT, on the north side of the river, just above the 101 bridge, if you know where that is. This is Bluff Creek Drive going up the hill towards Chanhassen. And the LRT crosses this road. So here's my view looking to the right when I pull up to the road. Cars are usually coming down this steep hill pretty fast, and they don't have a lot of time to stop for you. And then if you look left, this view over here, there's a lot of shrubs and bushes. In fact, I took this picture in the spring. It's a lot more grown up right now in the summer. You really can't see cars coming up, and they can't see you either. So one thing I do to make it safer for me to cross, instead of coming right up the trail, right to the road, I'll turn into the parking lot, which you can't see, and I'll come around and I'll cross right here at the entrance of the parking lot. That gives cars about 10 more feet of space to see you and you to see them as you cross. So if you could bring your groups through the parking lot to cross and to kind of help direct traffic right here, that would be very helpful for safety. On that very same ride, we're probably heading over to Chaska on that ride to a trail called the Lake Grace Trail, and we'll also go to Hawks Ridge if you're familiar with those names. Lake Grace, there's a 5 switchback section that we practice over and over and over to get ready for some of our races. It's really helpful if you as coaches can walk up to the hairpin turns here or switchbacks and just coach right from those 5 positions. So position your coaches throughout those turns as the kids are riding it over and over and over in front of you. There's also some bridges. Let's save this for the more advanced riders, or if the less advanced riders want to walk through it, that's fine as well. But make sure they're good and comfortable before you go through that section. All right, our next and final topic that I want to cover with you is something that matters to me greatly as a teacher, and that is my classroom management. I'm going to share with you a few things that I do as a teacher that I believe can extend right to the mountain bike trail and practice. And a lot of the kids on the team have had me in class, so when they hear you, or if they were to hear you do the same things that I do, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to understand it. So here we go. So if problems ever come up with any of your riders, or they're being difficult, or something goes wrong, how do you handle it? That's basically what this is about. All right, there's this book called Teaching with Love and Logic that I absolutely love. All right, this book is all about getting kids to like you. So if you just get your relationships going, your fist bumps, your greetings, you get to know the kids, that will go a long ways for you as a coach. It'll reduce your reduce your stress, and it'll make coaching a lot more fun for you and being on the team a lot more fun for them. It allows adults and kids to stay calm, keeps you from getting emotional if things get difficult, and there's absolutely no need to yell at kids when you know how to do some of these tactics. All right, keeps things positive when it gets stressful. Another thing it doesn't do is it doesn't use sarcasm, and it doesn't rub things in. When kids have a hard time or make a mistake, we definitely don't use sarcasm on them. That's definitely not a technique. All right, so what is this stuff? All right, I'm going to ask you to pick one or two things from this list to possibly either memorize or lock to memory so that you can use when you need it. All right, so setting up your group rules on the first day, on the first practice. All right, here's a statement you might use. I allow you to do anything that does not create a problem for anybody else. All right, that's the same one rule I use in my classroom. That covers just about anything. If somebody makes a problem, okay, you're probably going to ask them to fix it. That's how I live as a teacher. All right, it's very simple. It's not a long list of rules to memorize. It covers it all. All right, so the next thing I would suggest you use are I statements. I see, hear, and feel statements. When you need to tell a kid what to do, or you need to make an observation, use these types of statements. Okay, so pick something that works for you, or modify it to the situation. So if I'm trying to get a group's attention and they're not listening very well, I might say, all right, I'm going to show you what to do only when everyone is looking and listening. So you're not telling them what to do, you're telling them what you're going to do. So you're only going to do this when they're looking and listening. Okay, that feels a whole lot better than saying, all right, you will look and listen. Okay, that feels a whole lot different. I listen to those who raise their hand. So I would use that if kids are blurting out on you. I will ask you to solve any problem that you create. If not, then I'll have to do it for you and ask for you to make up my time. Okay, a little easier to do that in the classroom than it is while coaching. All right, here's a few more. Sometimes giving away control will get you a lot more control in return. And here's what I mean by that. And this is basic parenting too here that we're talking about. Giving kids choices that are all desirable to you, and it really doesn't matter to you which one of these they pick. It all gets you to the same result that you want. So would you rather do this, or would you rather do that? Here's some examples. Would you rather do 4 hill repeats today or 5? Okay, they're probably going to choose 4. Maybe they'll choose 5, but if they only choose 4, there's nothing wrong with that. 4 is still good. All right, would you rather do sprints at the beginning or at the end of practice? To you, it really doesn't matter. Okay, they feel like they've got some say in the matter, some choice, and in the end, they get their sprints done. The time of the practice doesn't matter. Would you rather do some strength training before or after we play games like Fight Club? I suggest opening with empathy if you ever need to address a difficult situation that comes up. So maybe somebody was not kind to somebody else on the team. You could say, oh, I'm sorry to hear this. All right, I know you can handle this. How are you going to solve this problem? Okay, put the problem back on them. It looks like you tried hard here. Let's try it again. So maybe they didn't reach the skill that they were working on at practice that day. Ah, bummer. I use that one a lot. Sometimes I don't always know what to say. I can't remember all these one-liners that I'm giving you. Bummer. That's one I'll bring up a lot. Another example. It takes talent to crash like that. Give it another shot. You got this. All right, if you say it with a smile, you might get the kid right back on their bike, even though they crashed or something else went wrong. Okay, build some respect, keeps your relationship positive. Again, say any of these with a smile, maybe even laugh a little bit with them. It feels a whole lot better than telling them what to do. And to conclude our training here tonight, our key dates that you will need to remember. June 30th, we're hoping that everybody is registered and ready to go by June 30th so that we can plan our groups. We ask that you have your level 1, 2, or 3 certifications taken care of. You can go into CCN and look up and see where you're at. If you're just hoping to ride with us and not take on a leadership role, level 1 is just fine. We need lots of level 1 coaches. But we also need at least one level 3 coach in every ride group. And we'll have at least 9 ride groups again this year. Having a level 3 coach means there's first aid and CPR certified and that they can lead groups out on their own. So we definitely need more and more level 3 coaches. So if you want to go that far, we would definitely take you up on that. And it gives us more options as we plan practice. Again, July 11th is our first practice at Memorial Park in Shakopee. Come into the season prepared. We're hoping that you've got some miles in your legs. Maybe you've done some riding before the season starts, so you're ready to go. And of course, have your own equipment all set to go. Your brakes, shifting, and of course, a helmet that has no cracks in it. Okay, our team camping trip is to Cuyuna again this year, July 28th to the 30th. Our race season is from mid-September to mid-October, and our season ends at that time, October 15th. If you have any questions, you want to email Coach Kyle, Tim, or myself, feel free to do that. We would love to hear from you. Otherwise, we'll plan to see you on the first night, July 11th, ready to go. Thanks for your time.